Hey there, history fans. Today, we are diving into the 1980s tea, a decade of big hair, bigger budgets, and Cold War tension so thick you could cut it with a fallout shelter key. President Ronald Reagan didn't come to play. He came to flex. Get ready for space lasers, nuclear sass, and one unforgettable mic drop at the Berlin Wall. But don't worry, we're also going to pause for some juicy side scandals. Let's spill this Cold War tea. When Reagan entered the White House in 1981, his message to the world, especially the Soviet Union, was loud and clear. Don't mess with the U.S. His foreign policy, wrapped in a philosophy called peace through strength, was all about turning up the pressure until the USSR cracked. He believed that the best way to prevent war was to build up America's military so powerfully, so visibly, that the Soviets wouldn't dare challenge it. Picture Reagan in a metaphorical leather jacket, revving the engine of American defense spending. Military budgets soared, new weapons developed, the nuclear arsenal expanded, and while critics screamed overkill, Reagan grinned and said, "Better safe than sorry, comrades." And then came the flex, Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. But since that's a mouthful, the press quickly dubbed it something far catchier: Star Wars. The plan? Use space-based lasers and high-tech satellite systems to intercept and destroy incoming nuclear missiles before they could reach American soil. Sci-fi? Definitely. But to the Soviets, it sounded like we were about to install a force field over the entire country. Was it ever fully developed? No. But here's the tea. It didn't have to be. The very threat of Star Wars sent Soviet scientists into a tailspin and Soviet economists into full panic mode. Keeping up with Reagan's sky-high ambitions meant pouring even more rubles into an already crumbling system. The Cold War wasn't just fought with tanks. It was fought with imagination, intimidation, and a little intergalactic flair. Oh, but wait. While Reagan was busy flexing in space, there was a full-blown daytime drama unfolding in the basement of the U.S. government. Let's talk about the Iran-Contra Scandal, starring none other than Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, a.k.a. America's most dramatic Marine since G.I. Joe. Here's the tea. Reagan's administration secretly sold weapons to Iran. Yes, Iran, the same country considered an enemy, to get money to fund rebel fighters in Nicaragua called the Contras. Congress had banned funding to the Contras. And Reagan's team, they said bet. Once the operation was exposed in 1986, the public was shook. Enter Oliver North, in uniform, testifying before Congress with all the conviction of a telenovela lead. He denied, deflected, and he might have even cried. But the real scandal? His shredding spree. Thousands of documents mysteriously vanished right before the hearings. Coincidence? Miss F thinks not. Meanwhile, Reagan kept upping the ante within the arms race like he was playing nuclear poker. The U.S. military grew stronger, faster, and more expensive. The goal wasn't just about defense. It was about bankrupting the competition. The Soviet Union, already struggling with food shortages and economic stagnation, tried to keep up. But trying to match the U.S. dollar for dollar in weapons, that was a losing game. Imagine Reagan casually tossing another $1 billion into the military pile, while Soviet leaders were over there sweating through their uniforms, calculating how many potatoes it would cost to build a new missile. But if you really want to see how the cracks in the USSR started to show, look no further than Chernobyl. In April 1986, a nuclear reactor in Ukraine exploded in one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. The Soviet government tried to cover it up, of course, classic move, but here's the gag. It was Sweden's Geiger counters that picked up the radiation and blew the whistle. That's right, the Soviets didn't say a word until other countries were like, your secrets are glowing. When the truth came out, it was clear that the USSR's infrastructure was falling apart, literally and politically. Chernobyl wasn't just about nuclear safety. It was a symbol of just how much rot was hiding under the surface of Soviet power. And for the world watching, It was a moment of terrifying realization. Now, let's jet on down to the Caribbean where things got tropical. In 1983, a tiny island named Grenada experienced a Marxist coup. Reagan, never one to pass up a chance to flex on communists, ordered a U.S. invasion to rescue American medical students studying there. It was fast, it was flashy, and it was controversial. Some called it a necessary show of strength. Others called it overkill. Miss F called it Reagan's Cold War beach vacation, now with extra helicopters. But as Reagan's presidency rolled on, something surprising happened. He warmed up. Enter Mikhail Gorbachev, the fresh-faced Soviet leader who brought something new to the table: reform, openness, and a willingness to talk. Starting in 1985, the US and the USSR began holding summits that were more than just photo ops. Geneva, Reykjavik, Washington, Moscow. Each one brought the two superpowers a little closer to de-escalation. Reagan and Gorbachev went from icy rivals to cautious, respectful frenemies. There were no hugs, but there were treaties, and in Cold War diplomacy, that's huge. Then came 1987. Reagan, standing at the Brandenburg Gate in West Berlin, turned toward the looming symbol of Soviet oppression, the Berlin Wall, and delivered the line.
Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
His speech was bold, it was dramatic, and 2 years later, in 1989, that wall actually came down. East and West Berlin reunited. The Cold War began its final descent, and Reagan had his mic drop moment that would be replayed in classrooms forever. Oh, but we're not done until we talk about the real battlefield of the Cold War, the Olympics. Let's just say international sports were extra petty in the 1980s. In 1980, the U.S. boycotted the Moscow Olympics in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. 4 years later, the Soviets clapped back and boycotted the LA Olympics. It's like the world's most expensive game of, oh yeah, well, I'm not going to your party either. And then there was the miracle on ice. In 1980, a scrappy team of American college kids beat the Soviet professional hockey juggernauts. It wasn't just a game, it was a metaphor. America cheered, the Soviets skulked, and Miss F still gets the chills watching the replay. And we can't forget the real Cold War queens, the Gymnast. The 1980s were the golden age of athletic divas, with the US and Eastern blocs duking it out on the balance beam. Romanian superstar Nadia Comăneci flipped her way into history with a perfect 10, and by 1989, she defected from Romania like the true legend she was. Cold War? More like cold score. So here's the real question, fam. Did Reagan win the Cold War? Some say yes. His massive military buildup, tough talk, and arms race brinkmanship certainly rattled the Soviets. Others point to Gorbachev's internal reforms, Glasnost and Perestroika, and say that the USSR was already imploding. The real answer? Like most good tea, it's a blend. Reagan pushed, the Soviets stumbled, and by 1991, the Cold War was officially over. And that, my dears, is how Reagan flexed, the Soviets cracked, and the Cold War iced out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite Cold War side scandal in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay sassy, and stay historically hydrated. Bye.